an inheritance for him. And thus the sons of Noah divided for their children before Noah their father, and he made them all swear an oath to curse each and every one who desired to seize a portion which did not come in his lot. And they all said, So be it, and so let it be to them and to their sons forever in their generations, until the day of judgment, in which the Lord God will judge them with a sword and with fire, on account of all the evil of the pollution of their errors, which have filled the earth, with sin and pollution and fornication and transgression. In the third week of that Jubilee, the polluted demons began to lead astray the children of Noah's son, and to lead them to folly, and to destroy them. And the sons of sons from the water of the flood, and did not let me perish as you did the children of perdition. Because great was your grace upon me, and great was your mercy upon my soul. Let your grace be lifted up upon my sons, and do not let the evil spirits rule over them, lest they destroy them from the earth. But bless me and my sons, and let us grow and increase and fill the earth. And you know that which your watchers, the fathers of these spirits, did in my days, and also these spirits who are alive. Shut them up, and take them to the place of judgment, and do not let them cause corruption among the sons of your servant. O my God, because they are cruel, and were created to destroy. And let them not rule over the spirits of the living, because you alone know their judgment. And do not let them have power over the children of the righteous henceforth and forever. And the Lord our God spoke to us, so that we might bind all of them. And the chief of their spirits, Mastema, came, and he said, O Lord, Creator, leave some of them before me, and let them obey my voice, and let them do everything which I tell them. Because if some of them are not left for me, I will not be able to exercise the authority of my will among the children of men, because they are intended to corrupt and lead astray before my judgment, because the evil of the sons of men is great. And he said, Let a tenth of them remain before him, but let 9 parts go down into the place of judgment. And he told one of us to teach Noah all of their healing, because he knew that they would not walk uprightly, and would not strive righteously. And we acted in accord with all his words. All of the evil ones who were cruel we bound in the place of judgment, but a tenth of them we let remain, so that they might be subject to Satan upon the earth. And the healing of all their illnesses, together with their seductions, we told to Noah, so that he might heal by means of herbs of the earth. And Noah wrote everything in a book, just as we taught him, according to every kind of healing. And the evil spirits were restrained from following the sons of Noah. And he gave everything which he wrote to Shem, his oldest son, because he loved him much more than all of his sons. And Noah slept with his fathers, and was buried on Mount Lubar in the land of Ararat. 950 years he completed in his life, 19 jubilees in 2 weeks and 5 years. On account of his righteousness, in which he was, Enoch had been created as a witness to the generations of the world, so that he might report every deed of each generation in the day of judgment. And in the 33rd Jubilee, in the first year of this second month, Peleg took a wife whose name was Lamna, daughter of Sinahar, and she bore a son for him in the 4th year of that week. And he called him Reu, because he said, Behold, the sons of man have become evil with perverse counsel, so that they are building a city and a tower for themselves in the land of Shinar. But they departed from the land of Ararat toward the east into Shinar, because in his days they built a city and a tower, saying, Come, let us go up into heaven. And they began building. In the 4th week they baked bricks of fire, and bricks were for them like stones. And the mud with which they plastered was bitumen, which came out of the sea, and the springs of water in the land of Shinar. And they built it. 43 years they were building it. Its width was 203 bricks, and the height of each brick was 1/3 of its length. 5,433 cubits, and 2 palms its height rose up, and 13 stadies was its wall. And the Lord our God said to us, Behold, the people are one, and they have begun working. Now nothing will escape them. Behold, let us go down and mix up their tongues, so that therefore one counsel will not reside with him until the day of judgment. And the Lord went down, and we went down with him, and we saw the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And he mixed up their tongues, and therefore which the sons of men had built. And he mixed up their tongues, and therefore one did not hear another's word. And so they ceased to build the city and the tower. Therefore all the land of Shinar is called Babel, because there the Lord mixed up all the languages of the sons of men. And from there they were scattered into their cities, according to each of their languages and nations. And the Lord sent a great wind upon the tower, and overthrew it on the earth. And behold, it is between Ashur and Babel that the land of Lebanon, as far as the river Egypt, was very good. And he did not go into the land of his inheritance towards the west, that is, the sea. But he dwelt in the land of Lebanon, eastward and westward, from the bank of the Jordan, and from the shore of the sea. And Ham his father, and Cush and Misraim, Jordan, and from the shore of the sea. And Ham his father, and Cush and Misraim his brother, said to him, You have dwelt in a land which is not yours, nor did it come forth for us by lot. Do not do this, because if you do this, you and your children will fall in the land, and be cursed with sedition, because by sedition you have dwelt, and by sedition your children will fall, and you will be uprooted forever. Do not dwell in the dwelling of Shem, because it came to Shem and his sons by lot. Shem and his sons by lot. You are cursed, and you will be cursed more than all the sons of Noah by the curse which we swore with an oath before the holy judge, and before Noah our father. But he would not listen to them, and he dwelt in the land of Lebanon from Hamath to the entrance of Egypt, he and his sons, until this day, and therefore that land is called Canaan. And Japheth and his sons went toward the sea, and they dwelt in the land of their portion. But Madai saw the land of the sea, and it did not please him, and he begged it from Elam and Ashur and Arphaxad, from the brother of his wife, and he dwelt in the land of Media near his wife's brother until this day. And he called his dwelling place, the dwelling place of his sons, Media, after his father, Madai. And in the 35th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, in the 1st year thereof, Reu took a wife, and her name was Orah, daughter of Ur, son of Kesed. And she bore a son for him, and she called him Seror, in the 7th year of that week, in that Jubilee. And the sons of Noah began fighting in order to take captive and to kill each other, to pour the blood of man upon the earth, to eat blood, and to build fortified cities with walls and towers, so that one man will be raised up over the people, to set up the first kingdoms to go to war, people against people, and nation against nation, and city against city. And every one will act and do evil to acquire weapons of battle, and to teach their sons war. And they began to take captive a city, and to sell male and female slaves. And Ur, the son of Kesed, built the city of Ur in the Chaldees, and he named it after his name and his father's name. And they made for themselves molten images, and every one worshipped the icon which they made for themselves as a molten image. And they began making graven images like polluted likenesses. And cruel spirits assisted them, and led them astray, so that they might commit sin and pollution. And the prince, Mastema, acted forcibly to do all of this. And he sent other spirits to those who were set under his hand, forcibly to do all of this. And he sent other spirits to those who were set under his hand, to practice all error and sin, and all transgression, to pour out blood upon the earth. Therefore the name of Serog, because everyone had turned back to commit all sin and transgression. And he grew up and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, near the father of his wife's mother. And he used to worship idols, and he took a wife in the 36th Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof. And her name was Melchah, daughter of Cabrera, daughter of his father's brother. And she bore him Nahor in the 1st year of that week. And he grew up and dwelt in Ur among the Chaldeans. And his father taught him the researches of the Chaldeans, in order to practice divination and astrology, according to the signs of heaven. And in the 37th Jubilee, in the 6th week, in the 1st year thereof, he took a wife, and her name was Iyaska, daughter of Nestag of the Chaldees. And she bore for him Terah in the 7th year of that week. And Prince Mastema sent crows and birds, so that they might eat the seed which was being sown in the earth, in order to spoil the earth, so that they might rob mankind of their labors. Before they plowed in the seed, the crows picked it off the surface of the earth. And therefore he called him Terah, because the crows and birds were impoverishing them. And they ate their seed, and the years began being barren because of the birds. And they ate all of the fruits of the trees from the groves. If ever they were able to save a little from all of the fruit in the earth in their days, it was with great effort. And in this 39th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 1st year, Terah took a wife, and her name was Edna, daughter of Abram, daughter of his first sister. And in the 7th year of that week she bore a son for him, and he called him Abram, after the name of his mother's father, because he died before his daughter conceived a son. And the lad began understanding the separated from his father, so that he might not worship the idols with him. And he began to pray to the Creator of all, so that he might save him from the straying of the sons of men, and so that his portion might not fall into straying after the pollution and scorn. And the seed time arrived for sowing in the land, and they all went out together, so that they might guard their seed from before the crows. And Abram went out with those who went out, and the lad was 14 years old. And a cloud of crows came, so that they might eat the seed. And Abram used to run up to them before they settled upon the earth, and he would call out to them before they settled upon the earth to eat seed. And he said, "Don't come down. Return to the place whence you came." And they turned back, and he caused the cloud of crows to turn back 70 times in that day. And none of the crows settled on any of the fields where Abram was, not one. And all who were with him in all the fields saw him as he was calling out. Then all of the crows turned away. And his reputation was great in the land of Chaldea. And all who would sow came to him during that year, and he used to go up with them until the seed time passed. And they sowed their land and harvested in that year enough food, and they ate and were satisfied. And in the 1st year, the 5th week, Abram taught those who were making the implements for oxen and the skilled carpenters. And they made implements above the ground, facing the handle of the earth, and therefore they were not afraid of the crows. And they did likewise upon all of the plow handles above the ground. And they sowed and tilled all of the earth, just as Abram commanded them, and therefore they were not afraid of the birds. And it came to pass in the 6th week, in its 7th year, that Abram spoke to Terah his father, saying, "O father," and he said, "Behold, here I am, my son." And he said, "What help or advantage do we have from these idols before which you worship and bow down? Because there is not any spirit in them for those who made them, and the misleading of the heart for those who worship them. Do not worship them." And his father said to him, "I also know that, my son, but what shall I do to the people who have made me minister before them? And if I speak to them in righteousness, they will kill me, because their souls cleave to them, so that they might worship them and praise them. Be silent, my son, lest they kill you." And he told this matter to 2 of his brothers, and they were angry with him, and he kept quiet. And in the 40th Jubilee, in the 6th week, in its 7th year, Abram took a wife, and her name was Sarai, daughter of his father, and she became a wife for him. And Haran his brother took a wife in the 3rd year of the 3rd week, and she bore a son for him in the 7th year of that week, and he called him Lot. And Nahor his brother took a wife. In the 60th year of the life of Abram, in the 4th week, in its 4th year, Abram rose in the night and burned the house of the idols, and he burned everything in the house, and there was no man who knew. And they rose up in the night, and they wanted to save their gods from the midst of the fire. And Haran rushed in to save them, and the fire flared up over him, and he was burned in the fire, and died in Ur of the Chaldees before Terah his father, and they buried him in Ur of the Chaldees. And Terah went out of Ur of the Chaldees, and he said to his sons, so that they might come into the land of Lebanon, into the land of Canaan, Haran. And Abram dwelt with Terah his father, and Haran 2 weeks of years. And in the 6th week, in its 5th year, Abram sat up during the night on the 1st of the 7th month, so that he might observe the stars from evening until daybreak, so that he might see what the nature of the year would be with respect to rain. And he was sitting alone and making observations. And a word came into his heart, saying, "All of the signs of the stars and the signs of the sun and the moon are all in the hand of the Lord. Why am I seeking? If he desires, he will make it rain away from following you, O my God. But establish me and my seed forever, and let us not go astray henceforth and forever." And he said, "Shall I return unto Ur of the Chaldees, who seek my face, so that I should return to them? Or should I dwell here in this place? Make the straight path prosper before you in the hand of your servant, that he might serve. And do not let me..." And he finished talking and praying, and behold, the word of the Lord was sent to him by my hand, saying, Come forth from your land, and from your kin, and from your father's house, into the land which I shall show you. And I shall establish you as a great and numerous people. And I shall bless you, and I shall make your name great, and you will be blessed in the land. And all of the nations of the earth will bless themselves by you. And whoever blesses you I shall bless, and whoever curses you I shall curse. And I shall be God for you and your son, and for the son of your son, and for all of your seed. Do not fear henceforth, and for all the generations of the earth. I am your God. And the Lord God said to me, Open his mouth and his ears, so that he might hear and speak with his mouth in the language which is revealed, because it ceased from the mouth and all of the sons of men, all of the sons of men from the day of the fall. And I opened his mouth and his ears and his lips, and I began to speak with him in Hebrew, in the tongue of creation. And he took his father's books, and they are written in Hebrew, and he copied them, and he began studying them thereafter. And I caused him to know everything which he was unable to understand. And he saw, and behold, the land was very pleasant from the. He built there an altar, and he offered up upon it a burnt offering to the Lord, who appeared to him. And he removed from there into the mountain, with Bethel toward the west, and Ai toward the east. And he pitched his tent there. And he saw, and behold, the land was wide and very good, and everything was growing upon it, vines and figs and pomegranate trees, oaks and ilexes and terebinths and olive trees and cedars and cypresses and date trees, and every tree of the field. And water was upon the mountains. And he blessed the Lord, who brought him out of Ur of the Chaldees, and brought him into this land. And it came to pass in the first year, in the 7th week, on the 1st of the month, that he built an altar on that mountain, and he called on the name of the Lord. You are my God, the eternal God. And he offered up a burnt offering to the Lord upon the altar, so that he might be with him, and not forsake him all the days of his life. And he arose from there, and he went toward the south, and he reached Hebron. And Hebron was built then, and he dwelt there 2 years. And he went to the land of the south as far as Bealoth. And there was a famine in the land. And Abram went into Egypt in the 3rd year of that week, and he stayed in Egypt 5 years before his wife was taken from him. And Tanis of Egypt was built then, 7 years after Hebron. And it came to pass, when Pharaoh took Sarai, the wife of Abram, that the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues on account of Sarai, the wife of Abram. And Abram was honored with many possessions, sheep and oxen, and asses and horses, and camels, and male and female servants, and silver and much gold. And Lot, his brother's son, also had possessions. And Pharaoh returned Sarai, the wife of Abram, and he sent him out from the land of Egypt. And he went into the place where he had pitched his tent first, to the place of the altar. Ai was east, and Bethel west. And he blessed the Lord his God, who brought him back in peace. And it came to pass that in the 41st Jubilee, in the 3rd year of that 1st week, that he returned to this place. And he offered upon it a burnt offering, and he called upon the name of the Lord, and he said, You, O God, most high, are my God, forever and ever. And in the 4th year of that week, Lot separated from him. And Lot dwelt in Sodom, and the men of Sodom were great sinners. And his heart was sad, because his brother's son had separated from him, because he had no sons. It was in that year, when Lot was taken captive, that the Lord spoke to Abram after Lot had separated from him. In the 4th year of that week, lift up your eyes from the place where you are dwelling toward the north and south and west and east, because all of the land which you see I will give to you and your seed forever. And I will make your seed like the sands of the sea. Even if a man were able to number the sands of the earth, he would not be able to number your seed. Arise and walk in the land in its length and its breadth, and the sea it all, because I will give it to your seed. And Abram went to Hebron and dwelt there. And in that year, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Salasar, and Tergal, king of the nations, came and killed the king of Gomorrah. But the king of Sodom fled, and many fell with wounds in the valley of Siddim by the sea of salt. And they took captive Sodom and Adam and Zeboim by the sea of salt. And they took captive Sodom and Adam and Zeboim. And they took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, captive, and all his possessions. And he went to Dan, and one who escaped came and told Abram that his brother's son had been taken captive, and he armed the servants of his house. Upon Abram and his seed 1/10 of the first fruits to the Lord, and the Lord ordained it as an ordinance forever that they should give it to the priests, to those who minister before him, so that they might possess it, the priests, to those who minister before him, so that they might possess it forever. And there is no limit of the days for this law, because he ordained it for eternal generations, so that they might give 1/10 of everything to the Lord, grain and wine, and oil, and oxen and sheep. And he gave it to these priests to eat and drink with rejoicing before him. And the king of Sodom approached him and bowed down before him, and he said, Our Lord, Abram, give us the people whom you saved, but let the booty belong to you. And Abraham said to him, I lift up my hand to the God Most High, that I will not take anything of yours, even a thread or shoelace, lest you say that I have made Abram rich, but only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, Aner, and Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take. And after these things, in the 4th year of this week, on the 1st of the 3rd month, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a dream, saying, Don't fear, Abram, I am your defender, and your will be very great. And he said, O Lord, what will you give me? I am going on without children, and the son of Masek, the son of my handmaid, is Eliezer of Damascus. He will be my heir, but you have not given seed to me. And he said to him, This one will not be your heir, but one whom will come from your loins will be your heir. And he took him outside, and he said to him, Look into heaven, and count the stars, if you were able to count them. And he looked at the heaven, and saw the stars, and he said to him, Thus shall your seed be. And he believed the Lord, and it was counted for him as righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you up from Ur of the Chaldees, so that I might give you the land of the Canaanites to possess forever, so that I might be God for you, and for the seed after you. And he said, O Lord, how shall I know that I shall inherit? And he said, Take for me a young animal of 3 years, and a goat of 3 years, and a sheep of 3 years, and a turtle dove, and a pigeon. And he took all of these in the middle of the month. And he was dwelling by the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron. And he built an altar there, and he slaughtered all of these, and he poured out their blood upon the altar. And he divided them in the middle, and placed them facing one another. But the birds he did not cut up. And the bird came down from upon the pieces, and Abram kept turning them away, and he did not let the birds touch them. And it came to pass that when the sun set, that a terror fell upon Abram, and behold, a great dark horror fell upon him. And it was said to Abram, Surely know that your seed will be strangers in an alien land, and they will serve them, and they will make them suffer 400 years. But I will judge the people whom they will serve, and afterward they will come forth from there with many possessions. And you will go to your fathers in peace, and be buried in a good old age. And in the 4th generation they will return here, because the sins of the Amorites have not yet been completed. And he woke up from his sleep, and stood up. And the sun had set, and there was a flame. And behold, an oven was smoking, and flames of fire passed between the pieces. And on that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, To your seed I will give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, and the Euphrates river, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, and the Phachorites, and the Hivites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. And that day passed, and Abram offered up the pieces of the birds, and their fruit offering, and their libation. And the fire consumed them. And on that day we made a covenant with Abram, just as we had made a covenant in that month with Noah. And Abram renewed the feast and the ordinance for himself forever. And Abram rejoiced, and he told all of these things to Sarai his wife. And he believed that he would have seed, but she did not give birth. And Sarai advised Abram her husband, and she said to him, Go into Hagar, my Egyptian maid. It may be that I will build seed for you from her. And Abram heard his wife Sarai's word, and he said, Do it. And Sarai took Hagar, her Egyptian maid, and he gave her to Abram her husband, so that she might be a wife. And he went into her, and she conceived and bore a son, and he called him Ishmael. in the 5th year of that week. And that year was the 86th year in the life of. In the 5th year, the 4th week of that Jubilee, in the 3rd month, in the middle of the month, Abram made a feast of the first fruits of the harvest of the grain. And he offered up a new sacrifice upon the altar, the first fruits of food for the Lord. A bull and a goat and a sheep were upon the altar as burnt offering to the Lord. And their fruit offering and their libation he offered up upon the altar with frankincense. And the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am God Shaddai. Be pleasing to me and be perfect, and I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will make you increase very much. And Abram fell on his face, and the Lord spoke to him, saying, Behold, my ordinance was with you, and you will be called the father of many nations. And your name therefore will not be called Abram, but your name will henceforth and forever be Abraham, because I have established you as the father of many nations. And I shall make you very great, and I shall make you into nations, and kings will come from you, and I shall establish my covenant between me and you, and your seed after you, and their generations, for an eternal ordinance, so that I might be God for you and your seed after you. And I shall give to you and your seed after you the land where you sojourn, the land of Canaan, which you will possess forever, and I shall be God for them. And the Lord said to Abraham, And you also keep my covenant, you and your seed after you, and you will circumcise all your males, and you shall circumcise your foreskins, and it will be a sign of the eternal ordinance between me and you. Still dark at daybreak, and he loaded his ass and took two of his young men servants with him, and Isaac his son. And he split the wood of the sacrifice, and he went to the place on the 3rd day. And he saw the place from afar. And he arrived at a well of water, and he said to the young men, Stay here with the ass, and I and the child shall go, and when we have worshipped we shall return to you. And he took the wood of the sacrifice, and put it on the shoulder of Isaac his son. And he took the fire and the knife in his hand, and the two of them went together to that place. And Isaac said to his father, Father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said to him, Behold the fire and the knife and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering, father? And he said, The Lord will see about the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And they drew near to the holy place of the mountain of the Lord. And he built an altar, and he placed the wood on the altar. And he bound Isaac his son, and he placed him on the wood which was on top of the altar. And he stretched forth his hand, and he took the knife in order to slaughter Isaac his son. And I stood before him, and before Prince Mastama, and the Lord said, Speak to him. Do not let his hand descend upon the child, and do not let him do anything to him, because I know that he is the one who fears the Lord. And I called out to him from heaven, and I said to him, Abraham, Abraham. And he was terrified and said, Here I am. And I said to him, Do not put forth your hand against the child, and do not do anything to him, because now I know that you are one who fears the Lord, and you did not deny your firstborn son to me. And Prince Mastama was shamed, and Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw a ram was caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called that place, The Lord has seen, so that it is said, In the mountain the Lord has seen. It is Mount Zion. And the Lord called Abraham by his name again from heaven, just as he caused us to appear, so that we might. By myself, says the Lord, because you have done this thing, you have not denied your firstborn son, whom you love, to me, that I shall surely bless you, and I shall surely multiply your seed like the stars of heaven, and like the sand of the seashore, and your seed shall inherit the cities of their enemies. And all of the nations of the earth will bless themselves by your seed, because you obeyed my word. And I have made known to all that you are faithful to me in everything which I say to you. Go. And I have made known to all that you are faithful to me in everything which I say to you. Go in peace. And Abraham went to his young men, and they got up and went to Beersheba together. And Abraham dwelt by the well of the oath. And he observed this festival every year for 7 days with rejoicing. And he named it the Feast of the Lord, according to the 7 days during which he went and returned in peace. And thus it is ordained and written in the heavenly tablets concerning Israel and his seed to observe this festival 7 days with festal joy. In the 1st year of the 1st week, in this 42nd Jubilee, Abraham returned and dwelt 2 weeks of years opposite Hebron, Kiriath Arba. And in the first year of the 3rd week of this Jubilee, the days of Sarah's life were completed, and she died in Hebron. And Abraham went to weep for her and to bury her. And we were testing him whether he would exercise self-control. And he was not impatient with the words of his mouth, and he was found self-controlled in this also. And he was not filled with anxiety, because with the self-control of his spirit he spoke with the sons of Heth, so that they might give him a place in which to bury his dead. And the Lord gave him favor in the presence of all who saw him. And he begged politely from the sons of Heth, and they sold him the land of the cave of Machpelah, which is opposite Mamre, i.e. Hebron, for 400 silver pieces. And they begged him, saying, "Let us give it to you free." But he did not take it from their control free, because he gave the price for the place in full silver. And he bowed down to them twice, and afterward he buried his dead in the cave of Machpelah. And all the days of the life of Sarah were 127. These are 2 jubilees and 4 weeks with 1 year. And these are the days of the life of Sarah. This is the 10th trial with which Abraham was tried, and he was found faithful. Controlled of Abraham was tried, and he was found faithful, controlled of spirit, and he did not say a word concerning the rumor which was in the land, that the Lord said he would give it to them and to his seed after him. But he begged a place there so that he might bury his dead, because he was found faithful, and was recorded as a friend of the Lord in the heavenly tablets. And in the 4th year thereof he took a wife for his son Isaac, and her name was Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the son of Nahor, Abraham's brother, the sister of Laban, and daughter of Bethuel. And Bethuel was the son of Milcah, who was the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother. And Abraham took a 3rd wife, and her name was Keturah, from the daughters of his household, servants, because Hagar died before Sarah. And she bore 6 sons for him, Zimram, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua, in 2 weeks of years. And in the 6th week, and in the 2nd year, Rebekah bore 2 children for Isaac, Jacob and Esau. And Jacob was smooth and upright, but Esau was a fierce man, and rustic and hairy. And Jacob used to dwell in the tents. And the youths grew up, and Jacob learned riding. But Esau did not learn, because he was a rustic man and a hunter. And he learned war, and all of the deeds were fierce. And Abraham loved Jacob, but Isaac loved Esau. And Abraham saw that the deeds of Esau, and he knew that in Jacob a name and a seed would be named for him. And he called Rebekah, and he commanded concerning Jacob, because he knew that she loved Jacob more than Esau. And he said to her, "My daughter, guard my son Jacob, because he will be in place of me upon the earth for a blessing in the midst of the sons of men, and a glory to all the seed of Shem, because I know that the Lord will choose him for himself, as a people who will rise up from all the nations which are upon the earth. And behold, Isaac my son loves Esau more than Jacob, but I see you as one who loves Jacob rightly. But be even better to him, and let your eyes be lovingly upon him, because he will be for us a blessing upon the earth, henceforth and for all generations of the earth. Let your hands be strong, and your heart rejoice in your son Jacob, because I love him more than all of my sons. He will be blessed forever, and his seed will be one which fills all of the earth. If a man is able to count the sand of the earth, and they will serve to establish heaven, and to strengthen the earth, and to renew all of the lights which are above the firmament. And he called to Jacob in the sight of Rebekah his mother, and he kissed him and blessed him, and said, Jacob, my beloved son, whom my soul loves, may God from above the firmament bless, and may he give you all of the blessings with which he blessed Adam and Enoch and Noah and Shem, and everything which he told me, and everything which he said that he would give me, may he cause to cleave to you and to your seed forever, according to the days of heaven above the earth. And may the spirit of Mastema above the earth, and may the spirit of Mastema not rule over you or over your seed, in order to remove you from following the Lord, who is your God, henceforth and forever. And may the Lord God be for you and for the people a father always, and may you be a firstborn son. Go, my son, in peace. And 2 of them went out together from Abraham, and Rebekah loved Jacob with all of her heart and all of her soul much more than Esau, but Isaac loved Esau more than Jacob. And in the 42nd Jubilee, in the first year, on the 7th week, Abraham called Ishmael and his 12 children, and Isaac and his 2 children, and Keturah's 6 children and their sons. And he commanded them that they should guard the way of the Lord, so that they might do righteousness, and each one might love his neighbor. And that it should be thus among all men, so that each one might proceed to act justly and to act rightly toward them upon the earth. And that they should circumcise their sons in the covenant which he made with them, and that they should not cross over either to the right or the left from all the ways which the Lord commanded us, and that we should keep ourselves from all fornication and pollution, and that we should set aside from among us all fornication and pollution. And when any woman or girl fornicates among you, you will burn her with fire. And let them not fornicate with her after their eyes and hearts, and let them not take wives from the girls of Canaan, because the seed of Canaan will be rooted out of the land. And he told them the judgment of the giants and the judgments of the Sodomites, just as they had been judged on account of their evil, and on account of their fornication and impurity, and the corruption among themselves with fornication they died. And you guard yourself from all fornication and impurity, and from all corruption of sin, so that you might not make our name a curse, your life a hissing, and all your love the God of heaven, and be joined to all of his commands, and do not go after their idols and after their defilement, and do not make gods of molten or carved images for yourselves, because it is vain and they have no spirit, because they are the work of hands, and all those who trust in them trust in nothing. Do not worship them, and do not bow down to them, but worship the Most High God, and bow down to him continually, and hope for his countenance always, and do what is upright and righteous before him, so that he might be pleased with you, and grant you his mercy, and bring down rain for you morning and evening, and bless all your works, and bless your food and your water, and bless the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your land, and the herds of your cattle, and the flocks of your sheep. And you will become a blessing upon the earth, and all of the nations of the earth will desire you, and they will bless your sons in my name, so that they might be blessed just as I am. And he gave gifts to Ishmael and to his sons, and to the sons of Keturah, and sent them away from Isaac his son. And he gave everything to Isaac his son. And Ishmael and his sons, and the sons of Keturah and their sons went together, and they dwelt from Paran to the entrance of Babylon, in all of the land which faces the east opposite the desert. And these mixed with each other, and they are called Arabs, or Ishmaelites. And in the 6th year of the 7th week of this Jubilee, Abraham called Isaac his son, and he commanded him, saying, I am old, and I do not know the day of my death, and I am filled with my days. Behold, I am 175 years old, and throughout all the days of my life I have been remembering the Lord, and sought with all my heart to do his will, and to walk uprightly in all his ways. I hated idols, and those who serve them I have rejected, ordinances and judgments, and do not follow pollutions, or graven images, or molten images, and do not eat any blood of beasts, or cattle, or of any bird which flies in heaven. And if you slaughter a sacrifice as an acceptable burnt offering of peace, slaughter it, but pour out its blood on the altar, and offer up all the fat of the burnt offering on the altar with fine flour kneaded with oil. Together with its libation, you will offer it all together on the altar as a burnt offering, as a sweet aroma before the Lord, and the fat of the thanksgiving offering you will place upon the fire which is on the altar. You shall remove the fat which is on the belly, all of the fat of the internal organs and the 2 kidneys, and all of the fat which is on them and on the thighs, and the liver together with the kidneys. And you will offer all of this up as a sweet aroma which is acceptable before the Lord, together with its fruit offerings and its libation for a sweet odor, the bread of a burnt offering to the Lord. And eat its flesh on that day and on the 2nd day, but do not let it be acceptable, since it was not chosen. Therefore it will not be eaten. And all of those who eat it will raise up sin against themselves, because thus I have found written in the books of my forefathers, and in the words of Enoch, and in the words of Noah. And you shall put salt in all of your offerings, and you shall not omit the salt of the covenant from any of your offerings before the Lord. And take caution with the wood of the offering, that you do not bring wood for the offering except of such as these: cypress, bay, almond, fir, pine, cedar, juniper, fig, olive, myrtle, laurel, and asphalthos. But place some of these trees under the burnt offering on the altar with their appearance tested, and you will not place any split or dark wood, but wood strong and pure, which has no spots, perfect and new growth. And you will not place old wood there, because its aroma has gone out, because there is not therefore an aroma upon it as before. Except for these trees there is none other that you will put on the altar, because its aroma has separated, and the smell of its aroma will go up to heaven. Keep this commandment and do it, my son, so that you might act uprightly in all of your deeds, and all of the appointed times be pure in your body. Wash your hands and feet again, and let there not be seen any blood upon your garments, or you. Be careful, my son, be extremely careful of blood. Cover it in the earth, and therefore do not eat blood, because it is life. And you shall not eat any blood, and do not accept gifts for any human blood, lest it be poured out in vain, without judgment, because it is blood which is poured out to cause sin for the earth. And the earth is not able to be purified of human blood, except by blood of one who shed it. And you shall not accept gifts or tributes for human blood, blood through blood, so that you may be accepted before the Lord God Most High, and he will be the protector of the good, so that you might guard yourself from all evil, and so that he might save you from all death. I see, my son, every deed of mankind, that their sins and evils, and all of their deeds are defilement and corruption and contamination, and there is no righteousness with them. Be careful not to walk in their ways, and to tread in their path, or to commit a mortal sin before the Most High God, so that he will hide his face from you, and deliver you into the power of your sin, and uproot you